Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Ben Schiller. He's a managing editor at CoinDesk. We're going to learn about the top 50 era-defining companies and organizations in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space as we discuss the CoinDesk 50. Ben, it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining me on Trade Talks. Tell us about the CoinDesk 50, the methodology behind it.
Sure, yeah. CoinDesk is a leading blockchain news brand. We've been in this space for about 7 years, and we felt like it was a good time to take stock and to really see how far we've come in terms of the industry and innovation. Obviously, there was this crazy technological event with Bitcoin 11 years ago, and that has led to a lot of other innovation around digital ledgers, distributed ledgers, and digital assets. And we wanted to sum up what the industry looked like today. So this list is not a list of crypto startups. It's not a list of enterprise plays. It tries to bring together all the different strands of innovation that sprang out of Bitcoin. So that includes exchanges, wallets, enterprise projects, what's known as decentralized finance, and also even some of the institutional plays and central bank digital currencies, which we're beginning to see. So obviously, central bank digital currency is a long way from Bitcoin, but it is it is part of the same innovation thread in a way, because it's about digitizing the transfer of value. In terms of the methodology, this was an editorial-led project. So the editors at CoinDesk came up with a long list of about 250 companies or projects. And over a series of meetings, we eventually reached a list of 50 companies and projects. And really our aim here, as I said, was to cover the full extent of innovation. So we didn't want like 10 exchanges on the list or 10 wallets on the list. We wanted to really showcase the full plethora of innovation that has resulted from Bitcoin.
It's really interesting, Ben, because it has been 11 years, which is your dinosaur in the crypto space if you've been around that long. But when you look at it in the context of the financial industry in general, it's quite impressive to see how fast and how far along it came from a technology and innovation perspective. And as you had mentioned, Bitcoin, which started out of the financial crisis in the last decade, it's really ready for today's economic crisis. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I mean, maybe, some of the use cases around Bitcoin itself have not quite lived up to the hype. Most people would say about Bitcoin that it's a better store of value, or it's a better speculative asset than it is a payment system. And that is being addressed by some scaling efforts now, particularly the Lightning network. But it's really about what has happened as a result of Bitcoin. It's led to other ICOs, it's led to Ethereum, it's led to all these different more private permissioned projects from JP Morgan to the Chinese central bank. And it's about this, the list is a representation of this full sort of strands of innovation that resulted from that momentous breakthrough.
Yeah, and it's not even just the financial industry that digital assets and distributed ledgers have found a home in, but it really is across multiple industries that are looking to innovate for the next 10, 20 years and beyond.
That's right, yeah. So, I mean, what I find so interesting about this space is that it really covers the gamut from, highly ideological or idealistic projects to much more buttoned up, enterprise blockchain initiatives. And again, what we're trying to do with this list is kind of cover that full spectrum of activity. For instance, on the list, we have companies like Walmart, which, to give an indication of how it's adopting blockchain, it has over 100 supply chain tracking initiatives. So everything from lettuce to arugula is now being tracked in a DLT or digital ledger system. And they also have a patent out for their own stable coin or their own form of digital currency, which potentially they could use for intra company transfers. So instead of going through the bank system to move money around the vast supply chain of Walmart, they potentially could use their own coin in the future to save costs, to save transaction costs. So that's an example of how a Bitcoin-like idea is getting slowly brought into the mainstream of American business.
Yeah, and I find it really quite encouraging that it's moving beyond just finance, particularly with your Walmart example, and seeing how it's impacting the food supply chain, which is so relevant right now as we're battling pandemics and looking for ways to mitigate them going forward. So it's really encouraging to see that this technology is being adopted outside of what we would think of the traditional circle. So to wrap up here, Ben, let's take a sneak peek in Binance, which actually came in first place. If you could just tell us why that topped the list.
Okay, so just to be clear, it's not a ranking, so Binance is not the #1 company in the space, it's a selection. But having said that, Binance is a unique company, it's the world's largest exchange, and they are continually buying up other companies to increase their user base, and they're building a tremendous battery of innovative projects there to really cover all the bases of crypto going forward. So that's not only exchanging Bitcoin for fiat currency, it's about doing different types of exchange-based public offerings, for instance, and other forms of institutional service as well. So they're really trying to cover the full spectrum of crypto businesses.
Okay, Ben, thank you so much for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thanks very much for having me.
All right, thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.